You are listening to Still Tide, The Boat That Never Sailed by Rolando ASISTEN Jr. Chapter 6, Gravity and Grace. Winter came quietly, the kind of season that doesn't announce itself, but simply arrives one morning when you exhale and see your breath. At the marina, frost gathered along the rails of Still Tide. The water thickened in slow ripples, heavy and deliberate. I found myself moving slower too. My body obeyed its own laws of physics now. Every motion required intention. Every step across the dock was a small act of trust. The students didn't notice the passing of seasons the same way. Their energy was constant, like solar flares. Each Friday at Bayside Middle, I walked into a room buzzing with ideas. They built balloon-powered cars, tested parachutes, argued about which planets could sustain life. Their laughter became its own kind of therapy. One afternoon, Ms. Hughes asked if we could build something bigger for the upcoming regional science fair. Something that feels like a real NASA mission, she said. The students erupted with suggestions. Maya wanted to launch a weather balloon. Javier wanted a miniature satellite that could send back data. Another team wanted to build a model rover that could climb the classroom tables. I listened to them, smiling at their competing dreams. "All right," I said. "Let's aim for the stars we can actually touch. How about a high-altitude balloon with a small sensor payload?" They cheered as if I had just approved a lunar landing. For weeks, we worked after school. The students learned to solder wires, read barometric sensors, and calculate lift using helium. My handwriting was slow, my coordination sometimes clumsy, but the children never rushed me. They simply adjusted their pace to mine. Grace, I realized, was not something that belonged to the strong. It was something offered to the fragile. One Friday evening, the class had emptied except for Maya, who stayed behind to pack up the tools. "Sir," she said, hesitating, "why do you still come every week? You've already done so much." I looked at her, unsure how to answer. "When I worked at NASA," I said, "everything I touched went up. I thought that was the point, to escape gravity. But maybe the real lesson is learning how to live with it." She nodded slowly, then smiled. "You mean like us holding you steady when you write?" I laughed. "Exactly like that." She zipped up the tool bag and said softly, "You don't fall, sir. You just keep finding new ways to orbit." A week later, we held our first test launch on the school field. The balloon shimmered silver against the winter sky, anchored by the students' small hands. "Count down from 10, I said. They shouted together, their voices full of excitement. When they reached 1, the balloon rose. Slow at first, then steady, climbing into the pale blue until it became a distant star. The children cheered. I tilted my head back, following its path. Something inside me lifted too. Miss Hughes wiped her eyes. "You still have a way of sending things upward, Mr. Calder." "Not things," I said quietly. "People." That night, Maggie made hot chocolate and listened as I described the launch. She smiled in that quiet way of hers, the smile that always seemed to hold an extra meaning. "You've changed," she said. "When you talk about them, you sound lighter." "I think they remind me what rising looks like," I said. "Even when you're staying still? Especially then." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. The tremor had become more pronounced lately, but her grip was steady. We sat there for a long time, our hands joined, the rhythm of her pulse calming the rhythm of my shaking. A few days later, I went to the marina. The wind was sharp, carrying salt and cold. Still Tide creaked gently, her mast humming like a tuning fork. I sat on her deck and opened my notebook. Observation: gravity holds the universe together. Conclusion: grace does the same for people. I closed the notebook and looked out over the gray horizon. In the distance, a flock of geese rose from the water, wings catching the light. For a brief moment, they formed a perfect V, balanced and weightless. Then they turned, splitting into smaller groups, following unseen paths across the sky. I watched them until they disappeared, feeling the quiet truth of their motion settle inside me. Sometimes rising isn't about leaving the ground. Sometimes it's about learning how to stay. See you in Chapter 7, here at Still Tide.